This is Hospitality One-to-One, Conversations on the Industry. Here's your host, Chris Bettis.
Carrie, we've been trying to get a hold of you to try to get an interview set up with you. You've been a very anticipated guest, if you will. Thank you for joining us today.
Thank you for having me.
Oh, the pleasure is all ours, really.
Thank you.
So I've got a number of questions. I want to pick your brain about a number of things. So let's just kind of get kicked off if we can. So, I mean, we like to talk about the story because, everyone has a unique story that gets them from where they were, where they began to where they are today. So Tell me your story. How did you get into the hospitality industry?
Yeah. Well, I got my very first job when I was 15 years old at Dairy Queen. I grew up in a town called Rockford, Illinois, about 90 miles outside of Chicago. And I had a really great experience at 15, my first job. It was really, really great. So I think I got a little bit of a taste of what it meant to be in this industry then. And I certainly didn't know that I was going to be in the restaurant industry my whole life, but I really had a great experience working at this Dairy Queen. The people that ran it were true leaders, and I started to really develop what it meant to have great leaders. And Dairy Queen's a great brand, and it's got great systems and that sort of thing. So as I evolved, my father was an entrepreneur, so I've been very entrepreneurial my whole life. I really wanted to have my own business, and I moved to Chicago, and I met Bryant Kyle, who was the visionary of Potbelly when there were just a couple stores. He had this vision of growing Potbelly throughout the country and providing great opportunities. I wanted to be a part of that, and I didn't really have the level of experience to start the HR department there, but I never stopped. I basically never shut up, and I just kept harassing him until he hired me. So I got the opportunity to start this HR department and really just worked super hard to figure out how to best support restaurant operators. And I was really young and driven, and I met a lot of really great operators. I mean, Potbelly, I spent about almost 11 years with Potbelly as their director of HR, and started there at 3 restaurants, so it was very entrepreneurial. And then when I left, there were 220 plus. So it was a much different company, and really understanding culture throughout the time and how to grow a business. I learned a lot about like the fundamentals of a business, as well as restaurants and operators and that sort of thing. And then I left there. I started a family. My husband is a restaurateur as well. He's a Dunkin' Donuts franchisee. And so I was sort of helping him a little bit, and I started to get calls from people that needed help hiring and HR stuff. So essentially my business was born 8 years ago, and as my kids grew into school, they started school and stuff, I had a nice little business, and we have not stopped since. So that's kind of my whole story. I love this industry. I love being in it. There's no real, I don't have any other experience really, but it's been a fantastic, 15, 20 years. 30 years. Okay, it's 30 years. 30 years, I'll just go ahead and say it. So.
Well, I'll tell you, it's funny you're talking about Potbelly, and it's amazing because different people don't realize the impact that restaurants have on our lives.
Right.
I know personally, I've been to Chicago a number of times. One of my signature memories was having lunch at Potbelly. I believe it was near what was formerly the Sears Tower. Now it's the Wills Tower, I believe. And right. We had Potbelly near there and went over and saw the tower. But I bring it up because the importance of restaurants in people's day-to-day lives. It's not just a place to eat. Memories are created, and
absolutely,
important milestones of your life occur there.
Absolutely, and I actually met my husband there. So so it really was memorable for me in that way. So, but yes, the restaurant industry is definitely good for that, creating lots of memories.
So let's, you talk about your 30 years of experience. When it comes to looking back on that, how has the industry changed since you started?
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think it's changed. One, technology is so much different, right? I mean, the way we are today is different. When I was 15 years old working at Dairy Queen, I don't even remember if we had it like the cash register or how we did that. But certainly technology has evolved over the years, which has changed certain things, I guess. And I think and some of this that I feel that has changed is probably my experience and my exposure to it. But the HR complexities, it's a lot different. Healthcare is confusing. All these things, have changed a lot in terms of how you hire people and what you offer them and the rules and regulations. But again, a lot of that probably, some of those things were in place when I was younger, but I didn't have the exposure to them. And I think that training has evolved a lot as well. I think that restaurateurs are spending some good time, not all of them, but trying to train people right on, running a great operation and that sort of thing. So I think those things really, technology, the world has changed in terms of laws and complexities and, training, I guess I would say.
You had talked about technology, and we talk a lot about tech in different aspects of the hospitality industry. And focusing on restaurants for a moment.
Okay.
In what areas, when you look at technology now as new devices, as mobile, as more advanced POS systems come into play, what impact do you think that has on the industry and on the customer when it comes to going into a restaurant?
Yeah, I think that technology can be very positive. I'll be honest with you, Chris. I'm not very tech savvy, and so I've bought tech for a long time, but I know that it can make things easier, having, apps to buy your food or different things, the technology in terms of like payroll technology and having everything automated. It's so nice. But what I think some of the problems are is there's a lot of people like me that aren't great with technology. They're not good with it. And so I think there can be some issues. And for me, what I'm really trying to do is, as the world continues to evolve with technology, you can't forget the human element. You've got to still focus on being great to your customers outside of the technology, or to your employees, or whatever it may be. So I'm not sure if I actually answered your question.
You did. And I wanted to kind of help, because I know you, with your focus in HR,
yeah.
How have you seen, and you kind of touched on it with the payroll side of things,
yeah.
How have you seen technology change when it comes to human resources in the industry?
Yeah, okay. So that is, a lot of restaurateurs, even as they've gotten larger, they have manually handled all of their payroll processes and how they manage benefits and how they onboard people. And so one of the biggest things that I've seen and that I've really think is necessary is having an automated system, an HRIS, a payroll system. So, when you're out starting at the very beginning and you're recruiting somebody, you can do it, the way you recruit today. That's another very big thing. You don't just put an ad in Craigslist and says now hiring cooks. You can still do that. People still do that. But there's so many different ways through social media and like mobile apps and different things that you can go out and find people, and then they can be onboarded all electronically. And then as they become a new hire, they go into payroll electronically. So you're eliminating all this paper and all of the room for human error. There's still room for it. I always say, just because you have a nice system to manage your HR doesn't mean it's going to be foolproof or that your I-9s are going to be compliant, because it's just not the case. It is much better though. And I would say if you have a restaurant group, you have, 50 to 100 employees, you can still handle it manually pretty easily. You don't have the complexities of all the payroll requirements and having to look at all that and all of the things. But once you get to be a little bit bigger, it's almost impossible today to manage things manually, and a lot of restaurants are still really behind here. They're still, doing their payroll on QuickBooks, and trying to figure it out that way.
So in other words, the technology, as it advances, it can help the smaller properties, restaurants, but especially those that are larger, that have a higher employee counts, it's almost becoming a necessity.
It is. There's so many reporting requirements allowed, and if you don't keep track of things, if you don't keep great records, even if you're a great company and you're doing the right things, and you don't keep great records of when people work over 40 hours in a 1 week or whatever, when they take their breaks and things like that, you're going to lose as a restaurateur. If you can't prove those things, and it's really hard to do that if you don't have a scheduling system or an HR system that manages it, or a payroll system of some sort. So yeah, I think as you evolve and get larger, it becomes more and more essential.
Now, we've been talking about HR overall, but I wanted to drill down when it comes to restaurants. So HR is HR, hiring is hiring, I get that. But what sets human resources in restaurants apart from other industries? What makes it different?
Well, I've only really been in this industry, but I can tell you the things that I think are different is, one, it's not a traditional 9-to-5 job. I mean, people are working all kinds of crazy hours. You get people from all walks of life. Everybody works in the restaurant industry, most people at some point in their life, and people enter into this industry oftentimes very entry level. So many people that I know that started in the kitchen, started washing dishes, are now franchisees. So I think that's a really cool thing about this industry. It's like, you have these opportunities. I know so many youngsters, I'll call them, in their early 20s that are managing a multi-million-dollar business. They're running a restaurant. There's not a lot of industries that, have those opportunities, that you can be in your early 20s or right out of college or, and have the opportunity to, one, manage a very, nice sized business, but you're also responsible for leading 10 to 20 people. So I think that's one of my favorite things about the industry, is that there's so much opportunity to make a difference in people's lives and to learn so much about business in general.
I mean, it's a chance to grow. You were talking about the 22-year-old, 20-year-olds. I'm thinking back to when I was 20 years old. I couldn't manage my own checkbook.
Right.
Never mind managing. So, I mean, goodness gracious, you got to give them credit. That's a heavy accomplishment. It really is.
But if you work with the right brand and they have great training and you're a good person and you understand how to connect with people, I mean, you can just, my niece, I love her story. She started at Potbelly, of course, when she was 15. She's 27 years old now. She's just doing great things. She was with Potbelly for a long, like 10 years. She actually just left to go to another concept, and she's just doing amazing things. And she's just this unbelievable 27-year-old leader. She's killing it. So it's really exciting.
So the experiences you gain are somewhat unrivaled than other industries.
Right.
Fantastic. Right. So let me ask you this. When it comes to, we've noticed how it's different when it comes to other industries. What do you feel are the biggest challenges? If you're a restaurant manager, a restaurant owner, what are the biggest HR roadblocks or challenges you're facing now?
Yeah, I mean, I think finding the right talent for your restaurants is very much a challenge. And, even if as the world changes and sometimes it seems easier or not, it's really tough to understand who you are as a brand and finding that right person, not necessarily the best person, but who's right for you. So you're really understanding the brand that you work in and how do you go out and attract the right people for your team. How do you bring them on board and keep them happy? I think this is the hardest thing. I mean, you can recruit all day long, and I think it's important to have different recruiting strategies, and there's lots of things you can do, from different different online job boards that you can place ads on. You can hire recruiters. You can do a whole bunch of different things, but that's like just step one. You've got to make sure that you have great leadership, and how do you keep people excited? Working in restaurants is a lot of work. So you've got to be able to tap into people's emotions and keep them excited, and turnover's high in the restaurant industry. One is there's a lot of young people and they're doing other things, and it's not necessarily meant for a long-term thing. But for those people that are in this business for a long time, finding a great brand that they can stick with for a long time is certainly a challenge.
Now, you brought up how turnover is high. We know that in the hospitality industry, I've used this stat countless numbers of times, but the turnover rate, I believe, was near 70%, maybe even a little north of that. So, a lot of it, some of it, of course, is going to be just natural attrition, people come and go. I get that. But you will also have, in some instances, an issue where the company, the restaurant itself, may have a less than desirable reputation from an employer brand standpoint. So if you're a new manager, for example, coming into a property that may have not necessarily had a great reputation within the industry itself when it comes to hiring, when it comes to staying with the property itself, the restaurant, what are the first couple steps you can take to help right the ship?
Well, first of all, when you are recruiting people, whether it's internally the recruiting or the recruiters, they need to be brutally honest with where the company is culturally. And if there are a lot of problems, hey, we're having a lot of problems right now, and this is what we need in our leadership or whomever you're hiring. But I mean, I think that it always starts with leadership. I mean, if we've worked with some restaurant groups that we knew there was no way we were changing anything because the people that led the company, the owners of the company, didn't truly care about people, and so when you have that, and you can't really change it if the ones that are defining it and are supposed to care about it don't. And some of our, former clients are, they've had these problems with turnover, and it's just sort of become their culture. They keep people for about a year, and they move on to somebody else, and that's just who they are. And so we would love to be able to help them change that, but if they don't want to change it, then there's really nothing that you can do. But I always like to say, I've met a lot of really great restaurateurs that don't like to deal with the people things every day, and they don't consider themselves great leaders. My recommendation to them is find somebody who is. Keep being a great chef and whatever it is you're good at, and maybe you're the guy that develops the company and you grow it and you find the real estate or you make the recipes or whatever, but let somebody that's really good at developing people and building teams, hire them to do that, and you can complement each other. That'd be a good start.
It's a great start. So, a unique question I was thinking of. Last night I was watching, I believe it was BBC. I like to sound more cultured than I am, so I watch BBC. But I was watching Gordon Ramsay's Kitchen Nightmares.
Yeah. And
then you watch, Food Network's Restaurant Impossible with Robert Irvine. And so you have this blowhard, if you will, this rough and tumble impression that the media likes to present from the restaurant industry. How do restaurants overcome that for people when they're looking to recruit and kind of differentiate themselves and say that's TV, that
exactly.
isn't reality? How do you overcome that unfortunate stereotype?
Well, I mean, I think that's exactly what you just said. I've done a couple posts that are like, unless you're John Taffer or Gordon Ramsay, you can't get away with that, kind of a thing. But I mean, I think but to that point, I think that authenticity in leadership is so important. That doesn't mean it's okay to scream and yell at people and swear at them or whatever, but people that want to work under Gordon Ramsay, and if he acts like that, they are inspired by that. So it's not really changing. I don't know a lot of people that would want to be in real lives. It's TV a little. I don't know. He's like that every day. But if he is, and he's got his tribe, his people, it's because they're inspired by how he is every day. And so that's what you have to think about. And if you're struggling hiring the people that you want and you're acting a certain way, you might have to adjust that a little bit, And but I'm a believer. I know so many different restaurateurs, and they are all so different, Chris. Some of them are very extroverted. Some of them are very introverted. Some of them never pat their people on the back. Some of them do it too much, So everybody's just really different. But just knowing who you are as a restaurateur and owner and being proud of that and building your culture around that. Or like I said, if you just can't stand people, hire somebody that can and that you can, that you can share the responsibilities with, and they can get the most out of the people, and you can continue to focus on your strengths, what you're really good at as an owner of the company.
So if you're great at cooking in the kitchen, but you have less than desirable people skills, you don't like people, not a problem. Hire someone who does
hire someone that, and maybe it's the general manager. Maybe you hire, get a partner. I mean, that would be, I've seen that work out really, really well. I know, thinking of somebody who's a great client of ours who's a really, really intense chef, and he really doesn't, he said some things to me that aren't real HR-y, you know what I mean? He's not a real people, nicey guy, and he, but he's really recognized that that's not what he wants to be doing, and it just makes him crabby when he has to deal with the people issues. So he's hired a team of people that deal with him, and they deal with all of those day-to-day people things and the hiring and the problems and all that stuff, and it's so much better. It's certainly not perfect, but it's a lot better.
Yeah, it's a common adage, a good leader, it doesn't matter if you're in hospitality, if you're in manufacturing, if you're in government, a good leader knows to augment themselves. They bring people around them who their strengths are his weaknesses, and they can rely on them at that point.
You got it.
Makes perfect sense. So we've talked a lot about other people. So I'd like to now take a little bit of time and we'll talk about you, actually.
Oh, boy.
Hey,
okay.
We all like talking about ourselves. Come on now.
Okay, right.
So let's talk about, because you talked about being an entrepreneur. You really are. you actually have really two different entities, if you will. You've got the restaurant HR group, and then, of course, your website, carrieluxem.com. How does it, first of all, what are the differences between the two, if you will?
Right. Good question. So when I first started Restaurant HR Group, we kind of did everything for everybody. For restaurateurs, we just did everything. Now Restaurant HR Group is really, we partner with sort of mid-sized restaurant groups, and we handle their HR, payroll, and benefits administration. So it's very admin heavy. Mm-hmm. Our generalists partner with the clients and actually do the payroll with their operators. They're handling their benefits. They're building relationships with the brokers. We kind of feel internal. So Restaurant HR Group is the administrative side of our company. CarrieLuxem.com is really where I'm on this mission to help independent restaurateurs and restaurant groups throughout the world, really, in all of the areas of HR that they're needing help with. And so right now, CarrieLuxem.com is just my website. I'm almost done writing a book. I'm done writing it. We're just getting it edited right now. And then, so I'll have this playbook, and then I will have CarrieLuxem.com will be a membership site. Mm-hmm. So our restaurateurs or HR professionals can become members of Carrie Luxem, and with that, they will get access to training videos in all areas of recruiting and hiring and onboarding and harassment and termination and kind of all those things. I'm going to do member-only blogs and articles and different things, and we're really excited to make a very affordable resource to people that want the advice. We're going to have we're starting out with a couple hundred different forms and templates and guidebooks that people can use, employee handbooks and application samples, and that are really geared towards the restaurant industry and really helpful to operators. I mean, we're even going to create sort of like HR topic agendas for operators to use in their meetings and stuff, because a lot of times people don't know what they should be focusing on, and they don't know how to make it really simple to understand. That's what we're really good at. So CarrieLuxem.com is basically more of a training and education membership platform, where Restaurant HR Group is administrative help, where our hands are in the mix with our clients.
And you could not have teed up my next question any better if you tried. So you talk about this book of yours, and and of course, very exciting. This is your first book. This is your first book, and it's due to hit shelves February 20th. Am I right?
Well, you are right, but I have some news. I should have probably shared this with you. I have finished it. I sent it to my editor, who's a very good friend of mine, and she unfortunately is very sick. So we had to make some adjustments, and we hired the design group that's doing the design of my book is actually going to edit it. So we are pushing the launch date back 1 month. We just discovered this yesterday. So it's going to be March 20th. The book will be out, and then the free memberships that people are getting with the book will kick in on the date that their book is shipped. So 1 month delay. We're super bummed about it, but, things happen,
hey,
right?
Good things come to those who wait.
That's right. I like to think that way.
Let's talk about the book for a second. Of course, the book is called The Restaurant Operators HR Playbook.
Yep.
So let's dive into that, if you will.
What is it?
What made you decide to write a book?
Yep. Again, it goes back to, I know how confusing the world of HR and people and culture and leadership can be. So my idea, this actually came from one of my clients. He kind of put this in my head that I needed to do something like this. So, and even the membership came from him. But so the idea was pull together something that would be a great resource for somebody. So I'm really trying to scale my knowledge. I want to be able to give what I know to as many people out there. So that kind of is how it started. And getting it started was tough. I didn't know, how am I going to do this? What is it really going to be? Is it just a straight read? What are we going to do? So it's called Restaurant Operators HR Playbook, and it's basically, it has 11 chapters in it. And the chapters are the whole life cycle of the employees, a whole life cycle of an employee. So it starts with culture, how to, develop your vision, mission, purpose, and it ends with leadership. But in the middle, it's recruiting, hiring, onboarding, payroll, benefits, loss prevention, safety, and all of those things. And so basically I talk about each one of those things. And then at the end of every chapter, we have a worksheet, which is, we're calling it the play. And we, you can look at the worksheet, and we will help you create your own recruiting strategy and your own hiring strategy. And we basically ask a lot of questions. We give a lot of resources and a lot of tools. And then, of course, they have the book, the stuff that I've written in the chapter that they can refer back to. And then we refer them to our membership platform. And as I talked about the membership platform, that's going to be those 11 categories as well. So everything, when you become a member, if you want to learn about recruiting, we're going to have videos, short videos, training videos, and it'll tie into that. And then they have the book as a resource.
So it sounds like you'll be able to read, for example, about culture, then go on to your website, and the website can be continually updated with the latest relevant information that ties to that particular chapter.
Exactly. And we're even going to keep the worksheets that are going to be in the book, but we're going to keep those updated for people to go to our website and print out new worksheets or the new plays as they want them. I mean, the thing about training, I've done a lot of workshops. You go in, you have one training class, and you go away. Nobody remembers anything. Somebody reads a book, they don't remember everything that they read. So it's got to be constantly talking about it. That's why I post so much. That's why I'm constantly posting on LinkedIn and Facebook and giving reminders, because I'm in the world every day and I can't even remember. I can't even remember what the rules and laws are. So how do we expect operators and HR professionals to remember everything? So that's what my goal is. The
constant little reminders help keep us on task. It's a great way of looking at it. So, we were talking about restaurateurs, and earlier we were talking about the younger generation. We call them the millennial generation, if you will. I wanted to kind of have you offer some advice, if you will. If you're someone perhaps either in high school and they're looking to maybe go to college for a career in the industry, or if you're fresh out of school or you're just starting your career and you really want to make a go at this, if you will, what advice do you have for someone looking to get started or who's just launching their career?
Yeah, no, that's a great question. I think that the first thing is really vet out the company you're going to consider working for. It can make a world of difference. And you've got to really understand what it is you want. I mean, working for a brand that's really small and growing is a whole different person. Very entrepreneurial. It's not as structured. If you need that structure, maybe you look at bigger companies. But don't underestimate, looking into what you're signing up for and asking to talk to people and understanding their turnover and what their problems are. Every company in the world has problems, but you'll know a great brand, one from the other, if you do some research. And, and the thing is, if you really are interested in like a career of coaching and leading people, this is such an insanely great industry for that. I mean, you get, even like we talked about young people or not, you get to, people are coming to work every day and they're flipping burgers and, serving tacos, but it's really about making an impact in people's lives every day. That's what I love about this. And people throughout my life, since I was 15 years old, have done that for me all the way through my time at Potbelly, And so I know the power of leadership and how it can play in this industry. And so sometimes people come into this industry because they can make a little money and have flexible hours and they're looking at other things. I know a lot of people that have thought they were going to go be a lawyer and they ended up staying in this industry. Now they own a few restaurants, it happens. So
in other words, this industry offers a tremendous ability for learning and for growth and for advancement.
Yep. And, there's a lot of hard work. And I know there's a lot of, there's a lot of people that say this industry isn't great. Those are the people that decided to go maybe to the wrong company. There's a lot of, just like anything, there's lots of bad leaders or, not great companies or people that don't care. You've got to find the right ones. And there are so many of the right ones out there.
I think before we wrap it up, we've kind of talked about the history. We talked about what we have going on now. So I'd like you to put the crystal ball out if you can, and let's start forecasting, okay?
Okay.
And hopefully our forecasting is better than the weather forecasting, where it's,
right.
It's mostly wrong. But, I mean, when it comes to forecasting, look ahead to the next 5-10 years in the industry. What do you think the future holds?
Yeah, I'm not really good at this, predicting, but no, I would say I have seen such tremendous growth over the last 20 years. I think there's no slowing down in this industry. I think, restaurateurs are trying to get, for a lack of a better word, to a chain restaurant, not necessarily chainy feel, but like people want to do what Potbelly has done or Chipotle has done or whatever it may be. So I think you're going to see more of that. I think there's a different level of commitment to training people and setting up good systems. And I think there's going to be a ton of great opportunities for people, not just operationally, but if you're a marketing person or if you're a lawyer or whatever, when you grow in this industry, obviously all of those positions are going to be great. So I would say there'll probably be a lot of advanced technology brought to the table for training and how you hire and all those things. But mostly what I foresee is just lots and lots of really cool opportunities.
This has been an absolutely enlightening conversation, just because it affects everyone. I mean, everyone, whether or not you're working in the industry or all of us eat, so you all deal with the industry on a regular basis. So it really is a great touch point to the restaurant industry as a whole. So again, a terrific conversation.
Thank you.
You're welcome. So if people want to reach out to you, questions, comments, how can they get a hold of you?
Right. They can go to carrieluxem.com. We have a contact sheet on there. They can complete that. Or I'm, most active on LinkedIn. So if they wanted to go to LinkedIn, they can reach me there as well.
That is terrific. What I'll do,
Awesome.
I'm going to put a link to your website and your LinkedIn profile up on our website, the hospitality1to1.com website. And, of course, any questions, they can reach out to you. Carrie,
thank you
so much for your time.
Thank you very much, Chris.
Have a good day.
You too.